This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at two new sci-fi films that take place in outer space, Stowaways starring Anna Kendrick and Voyagers with Colin Farrell, the new action thriller Nobody featuring Bob Odenkirk, and the historical drama 6 Minutes to Midnight. Plus, the new romantic comedy Senior Moment, along with my interview with its star, William Shatner. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show, where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. So along with my panel, who are all streaming from home, we have plenty of movies and TV series for you to watch at home, or amazingly, in movie theaters, which are finally starting to open up. Joining me are Perry Nemiroff from Collider. Welcome back, Perry.
So happy to be back here.
Happy to have you. Bill McCuddy from Gold Derby. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Neil, as usual, you're always right. I'm really glad to be here, and thanks for introducing me the way you just did.
And welcoming back to the show, our friend Justine Browning from Entertainment Weekly. Hey there, Justine.
Always a pleasure. These get-togethers make my month.
Well, there you go. Anyway, let's start out with a look at several new films that are available either on demand or on streaming services or in movie theaters, beginning with something called Nobody. Let's take a look at a clip.
Heard you had some excitement last night. I wish they'd have picked my place, you know?
Why didn't you take him out?
I was just trying to keep the damage to a minimum.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
You okay? Because you don't look okay.
There's a long dormant piece of me that so very badly wants out.
Justine, tell us about Nobody.
Well, this stars Bob Odenkirk as a seemingly ordinary family man. He's run down by the monotony of his life. The most action he seems to have is running to catch the garbage man. But that all changes when he's a victim of a home invasion, and the incident awakens something in him. We gradually learn about his brutal, dangerous past, as, in his words, the last guy you would ever want to see at your door. Really, the staple of why this ends up being such a surprising treat is an against type. Bob Odenkirk, he trained for 2 years on this production, and the fight sequences really remind you why fight choreography is an art form. You have really notable stunt coordinators here like David Leitch, and you really feel that, in a world where CGI is the norm, this is so refreshing, that rawness. And I was on board with this every step of the way. There's inventive editing, inspired song choices. It embraces its ridiculousness and gives a stylish spin on a narrative we know all too well by now.
Bill?
Well, I agree to a point. I mean, this thing is ridiculous and over the top, but what makes it great is Bob Odenkirk isn't James Bond. He's not Indiana Jones. He's this regular guy down there. He's not even Liam Neeson. He's the guy next door. And in that way, you can kind of think, well, maybe I got a shot at 5 Russians on a bus. I mean, yeah, it's crazy and over the top. It's got Christopher Lloyd in it, which is a lot of fun as his dad. So is it my most enthusiastic recommendation? No, but this is a load of fun.
Perry?
I dug it quite a bit. And if you couldn't tell, I'm a big hardcore Henry fan. So I like director Elia Naishler's work a lot. He's a good action director in general. So while I am excited about Bob Odenkirk, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Nobody does for Naishler's career going forward.
Okay, well, I can't disagree with you guys more. Yes, as you've all said, it is ludicrous, but I didn't like the fact that it was ludicrous. And it's ludicrous right out of the gate. I mean, 2 thugs break into Bob Odenkirk's house, and, he does the right thing. I mean, the kid wants to, beat up one of the thugs, and he's like, no, let's just, get past this. He's trying to protect his family. He goes to work the next day, and even the next door neighbor's like, gee, I wish it was me. I could have really taken those guys apart and blah, blah, blah. And, and then he snaps on a bus. I don't think there's enough background to see why that happened. And I also really didn't buy into the fact that despite 2 years of training, which I think is kind of wasted, I didn't buy Bob Odenkirk as the next Liam Neeson action star, which is what I think he's trying to make a career move to be. Well, sarcasm aside, Bill, it was flat and boring. It got a little better when the Russian mob got in there, but I don't know. It didn't really work for me. Moving on. Hey, Bill, tell us about a movie called 6 Minutes to Midnight.
Well, Neil, it's 1939, and Nazi moms and dads are sending their daughters to finishing school in seaside England, where teacher slash spy Eddie Izzard, who, by the way, shows up taking the place of another spy who got killed, but nobody suspects that maybe Eddie Izzard is another spy, is joining headmistress Judi Dench, and they're trying to save these young girls before the Nazis get to them. Or are they? It's a big why done it, in my opinion. And 6 minutes into this movie, you're going to realize you don't want to be here at all.
Perry?
Yeah, it was an interesting concept that I was looking forward to exploring more, but the movie kind of just dragged and dragged. And I wonder if it would have benefited if they had focused it more so on the school and trimmed out some of the spy elements, because one of the most interesting parts about the movie is exploring someone's relationship with their nation and what they're going to do in this particular situation. But you are distracted from that, I mean, nonstop throughout the entire movie because of spy elements that feel really cliche and uninteresting.
Justine?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think what the biggest draw for this is its unique angle. You know, we've seen so many films set in this time frame, and so this was a refreshing approach, but unfortunately that's really where the appeal ends. This was actually a real place, Augusta Victoria College at Bexhill on the Sea, and Bexhill is a real location, and I would have really liked to have seen that be explored. It does dissolve into these mystery tropes, right? I would have liked to have seen more about the dichotomy and as you said, Perry, the relation to nation, you know, Hitler's influence on youth in England and just the methods that were taken to combat that. But unfortunately, we just get a lot of formulaic approaches here.
Listen, the movie is kind of all over the map. It's flawed. You know, there's an end sequence, which I won't give away, that's kind of rendered moot by some type that comes on the screen before the end of the credits. And I don't know why these girls in Nazi Germany are so objecting to go back to Nazi Germany since all their family is there. There's a lot of flaws in this. But listen, this is a little known chapter in history. As you said, Justine, it is based on a real school. And I think that Eddie Izzard gives a really good performance. And you know, if you're interested in this particular period of history and this subject matter, then I think it's worth a look, you know, flaws and all.
Waiting for Bill's next note card is more suspenseful than this film.
That's actually true. Perry, tell us about the sci-fi flick Stowaway.
This one stars Toni Collette, Daniel Day Kim, and Anna Kendrick as a 3-astronaut team on a mission to Mars. Soon after they take off, they come to realize that they have an unintentional stowaway on board, played by Shamir Anderson, and the big problem is their ship was only made for 3 people. And that concept right there is fascinating, and it lends itself to so much tension. The problem is I found watching it all play out shockingly dull, given how much that core concept intrigued me. I think the only bits that really sparked that kind of tension were 2 really, really well executed third act set pieces. That's the part where I was kind of on the edge of my seat, which is what I wanted to be feeling the entire way through. But those in between moments just don't really work. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that these characters don't really have arcs. They're kind of the same people at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie, and it makes them very uninteresting characters to follow.
Bill?
Yeah, this is what we should call this movie, because it's just a wasted opportunity. I mean, the setup is interesting. It then sets up some rules about how many people can and can't survive with the oxygen in there. It violates that rule in the third act and asks us to believe that something else is going to take place that's going to make everything okay. It made no sense to me. I like anything that Anna Kendrick is in except this.
Justine?
To say, about halfway through this film, I made a decision to respect it for what it was going for. It is almost akin to a stage play. It's really focused on the moral dilemma at its core, the central characters. To me, it actually felt very realistic. And then unfortunately for that reason, really mundane. But I actually accepted that. I enjoyed the performances. I made a decision to really accept there aren't thrills and twists and turns and exciting action sequences or anything like that. But I really connected to these characters. I felt that they were very real. There's a lot of crying throughout the film, but I felt that was like very realistic and emotional.
Wow.
They never explain how this guy's a stowaway. Sorry, I shouldn't have given that away. Don't watch this.
This was so boring. There's so little dialogue, and there's nothing to compensate for that. And the first hour really drags on, and nothing happens except for the discovery of the stowaway. And then in the second hour, there is some kind of crisis and a moral dilemma that they have to deal with, but that's handled so tediously too. The outside of the spacecraft, they do on tethers, on ropes, they do a spacewalk that looks like a bad production of Cirque du Soleil, and those scenes are endless, and there's no tension. It's badly executed story, and a snail-paced direction, not good. I would not see this on any circumstances. French Exit is a new film starring Michelle Pfeiffer as a New York socialite who moves to Paris when her money starts to run out. Let's take a look.
I've never been so hurt by something in my life as when I saw your face for the first time.
Why?
Because you were your father. Because you were me.
Bill, let's hear about French Exit.
Well, as you mentioned, that's the amazing Michelle Pfeiffer. She's really the only thing to recommend in this movie. I didn't love what is basically a Wes Anderson-like, or Wes Anderson light, I should say, kind of film. She's playing basically the Bill Murray part in what would be a Wes Anderson movie. But this is about she and her son, Lucas Hedges, who are in Paris, and her husband has died. He's come back as a cat, voiced by Tracy Letts, which sounds awful, but is kind of funny. And they basically spend all her money. So that's basically the whole thing. She was campaigning, or they were campaigning her for a Best Actress nod. Didn't happen. But if you're a fan of Michelle Pfeiffer, definitely seek out French Exit.
Justine?
Yeah, this definitely pays tribute to several different directors of this tone, and I was fine with that. I felt that the colors, costumes, all very detailed, really pop. Michelle Pfeiffer is really a joy here to watch. You can tell the actors are just having a great time and embracing these eccentric premises and characters. It's really a shame that past a certain age, especially women in film, we don't see these stories told. So for that reason, I found this very refreshing.
Perry?
Yep, you guys said it. Michelle Pfeiffer's great in this. She just was utterly fascinating and entertaining in that role from start to finish. And even though I got a good sense of how kooky she was at the very beginning of the film, everything she did kept surprising me in the best ways. And I mean, the cat stuff, obviously I was going to like this movie.
Yes, we know you like cats, and I like Michelle Pfeiffer's performance. The film is a total misfire. It's overly quirky and weird, and if this is supposed to make me amused or entertained, I wasn't. I thought the cat, voiced by Tracy Letts, was with the seance to bring the cat, ridiculous. I mean, only Pfeiffer's performance was noteworthy. Alone, she can't salvage this thing. It's a Wes Anderson, Whit Stillman wannabe, but doesn't come up to that on any level. Next up is a movie called Senior Moment. Perry, tell us the story.
So this one stars William Shatner as a man named Victor. He's a retired NASA test pilot living in Palm Springs who absolutely adores his car. When he loses his license because he decides to drag race in it, he's forced to use public transportation for the first time. And for him, that means a new commute, seeing new things, and meeting new people. And that's how he meets Jean Smart's character, and we get a little romance between them. I mean, clearly this one has a lot of big talent, but it ultimately doesn't matter because none of them can salvage this or breathe any life to it. It is just rarely funny. It's extremely predictable the entire way through. And on top of that, I kind of found Shatner's character a little off. I mean, not a little, a lot of off-putting all throughout the film. And that made him impossible for me to root for.
Bill?
The cars are really nice. Listen, I do want to give a shout out to Christopher Lloyd here, who's his buddy and is also in Nobody. He's 82 years old and he's having a good time in both of these films. Shatner just turned 90 and we're alone in this as critics because it gets like 18% on Rotten Tomatoes, but 90% of the audiences like it. So they're doing something right to please the crowds.
Yeah, you're right, Bill. I mean, amongst critics, it's not loved, but the 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes is because it's a rom-com involving older people, which is refreshing. I mean, the movie industry really makes movies targeted to this audience. It's generally all about going after the youth demo. So is this a great movie? Certainly not, but it's enjoyable, especially for an older audience. Justine?
Yeah, I appreciate that about it. And I do think that's why so many audiences are approving of this film, because it's a starved market that isn't often catered to. And I have to say, Shatner and Torrance have pretty nice chemistry here, but that's really where the high point ends. Their dynamic. There's not much to it, unfortunately. It feels more like a dated short comedy pilot for a series that never went to air.
But you're right, Neil. We need more 90-something rom-coms.
Do you think the older audience is enjoying Fast and Furious? And how many bad teenage rom-coms are there that they're out there?
This isn't Fast and Furious. This is Slow and Annoyed.
It's a fun piece of fluff for seniors, Bill, and I'm sure they're not happy watching those teen comedies. So come down off your high horse, everybody.
That explains why you loved it, obviously.
Take it for what it is, and the audience it's targeted for will find it enjoyable. Well, anyway, I had the opportunity to talk to William Shatner on Zoom. Let's take a look at that interview.
Do you still, you just did this movie. Do you still enjoy acting? Do you still get the same kick out of it as you did like years ago?
More. Every time
Really?
I finish something, I think, oh, that's how it's done. I see it as a psychological examination that everybody, the character you're playing, has a different facet. How you say hello is different in every moment. I mean, you've got to examine, why is he saying hello and how does he say hello? And there's a whole psychological puzzle in any part you play. And the more you live, the more variance you can give that hello.
Justine, talk about the sci-fi film Voyagers.
Well, this is about a group of young men and women bred to colonize a distant planet. But in order to do that, they're drugged to keep them in line and discourage their human urges. They gradually become more and more paranoid and plunge into madness, not being able to determine what is real and what isn't. Ty Sheridan and Lily Rose Depp star in this. This had a lot of promise in terms of the premise, but it fails to execute that. It all really falls apart. There's a lot of lazy exposition dump and very nail on the head dialogue from the first frame. We've seen these tropes before. The only redeeming quality I would say is the score by Trevor Garekis. That was really the only high point for me. This was a slog.
Perry?
I think the curiosity of wanting to see how things panned out kept me in it until the end, but the problem with this one is that it's got two really strong core concepts. The idea of creating astronauts for this mission with no attachment to Earth, but then also the idea of first letting them experience certain kind of emotions and feelings while they're on this mission. And the two never really came together well. And every time the focus was on one over the other, I found myself longing for the other, or at least a connection to it, which the movie never does.
Bill?
I really can't recommend this thing. I mean, Neil Berger's done better work, and you guys are right. The premise is fascinating, but it's been called Lord of the Flies in outer space. I wish it was that interesting.
This premise is very good. Unfortunately, as you all said, it's just not executed well. And, the story and the direction lost my interest somewhere along the way. And despite good production values, as you also all mentioned, and decent performances, it's not enough. It's not awful, barely passable, and I'm being overly kind. Listen, when they stop drinking this blue liquid, which is supposed to, make them suppress their sexual desires and emotions, and human nature takes over, you think, okay, this is going to become very interesting now, but that's tedious too.
Look what I have done in this lifetime with this body. I'm a girl from a cotton field that pulls myself above what was not taught to me.
The Fantastic Ike and Tina Turner review!
It was Ike's band, but Tina was the shining star.
When I saw her dance, she was all I could look at.
He rehearsed constantly. And then the pressure came that we had to work more to try to get a hit. And I was afraid.
That was a clip from the new documentary, Tina. It's Justine Browning's personal choice as we go around the panel with our critics' picks of the month. Justine.
Yeah, this is a revealing look at the life and career of Tina Turner. It charts her humble beginnings and her incredible rise to fame, but it also delves into her very public struggles and all that she's overcome. You get such a strong overview of an unseen perspective into the music scene in the 70s and 80s. And there's some incredible interviews with Angela Bassett, who famously played her on screen, and Oprah, among others. And this is from the same team as the Oscar-winning directors from Undefeated. And it's just a thrill from start to finish.
Bill?
We get Oprah. We also get a lot of Tina. We get, which is great because she obviously likes this project and contributed to it. We also get a horrific look at Ike Turner in some old footage, an interview he did where he kind of sort of blames her for some of the beatings he gave. This is must-see television, really well handled, lots of great talking heads, and I can't recommend it more highly.
Yeah, look, even though we've seen the movie with Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne, and there's a Broadway musical, and there's a book, this is so much better than all of that. I mean, it really gives you a complete look at this superstar icon. All these interviews, the interview with Ike Turner, the present day interview with Tina, the old interview with Tina, and all these other people that like have been associated with her. I think it's terrific. It's a powerhouse of a documentary. I highly recommend it. A TV series that I really like is Bill's pick. Bill, tell us about your pick.
Well, I know we ask people to subscribe to all these different services, but I'm going to tell you right now, if there's one reason to get Apple TV, it's for Ted Lasso. I was a little late to this party, but Jason Sudeikis started winning everything like Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards and everything. And I said, I better catch up on this. And I'm glad I did, because it's about a small-time Kansas college football coach who's brought to England to lose as the coach of a soccer team over there. I want to give shout out to the women in this thing, because Hadda Waddingham, who owns the team, is tremendous. And Juno Temple is great as kind of a little internet phenom who's dating one of the guys on the team. I've never used this term to describe something that's a comedy, and I don't want to turn people off. Ted Lasso has a lot of heart, and you'll watch it anyway.
Yeah, it does have a lot of heart. It's a dramedy, not just a comedy. And you think this Ted Lasso character and Jason Sudeikis and Hannah Waddingham are great. You think this Ted Lasso character is like this hick country bumpkin idiot, but he's really well read and really smart. And that's the surprise that unfolds as it goes along. And it's terrific. I just really like this show a lot. Perry?
I loved this show so much. It almost made me give Jason Sudeikis a pass for wearing a hoodie to award shows. And I was not okay with that, but I totally fell so hard for the show and for the character of Ted Lasso in particular. It's just that character exudes the energy and the kind of attitude that I just need in my life right now.
Exactly that. I think it's going to be an iconic, great TV character for the ages. And it does have a lot of heart. It feels so fresh and unique, which is so rare, and really the show that we all absolutely need right now.
Listen, if you're turned off by the fact that it's sports, like Friday Night Lights was not about football, it was about characters and people, this is the same thing. It is not about soccer. That's the background. It's about the characters and the development. Check this out. Perry, what's your pick?
I am going with Zack Snyder's Justice League. As many probably know, Justice League hit theaters back in 2017, but Zack Snyder did not finish that cut of the movie due to a personal tragedy. Then HBO Max comes to be, and Warner Brothers gives him the opportunity to finish his Justice League. And in the end, we wind up with this 4-hour cut of the movie available to stream, and it's cut up into chapters. Sounds like a lot for 4 hours, but I think story-wise, if you really like the DC characters, this is a must-see. I think it plays exceptionally well for a 4-hour cut. And then on top of that, if you're the kind of person who is just super into filmmaking in general, and in particular, if you want to see the same footage used in both cuts and to see what kind of difference it makes to make scenes a little longer, change the tone, move the placement of the scene in the movie. It is a fascinating study of that.
Justine?
Absolutely. I did watch this in shifts, but exactly that. It really felt like an event, this film. All of the dialogue, discussions, the social media discourse leading up to it. And exactly that. You see two very different perspectives from two very different filmmakers. And I really respect what this is possibly giving rise to within the film industry.
Yeah, this is what we needed, longer versions of movies that didn't do well in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. The only good, not my thing, the only good thing here is it's chapters, so you don't have to watch it in a 4-hour swoop. You can watch chapters in, if you're into that sort of thing, which I'm not. Well, my pick this month is a TV series called Younger, which just entered its 7th and final season. Now, for those unacquainted with the show, the very talented Broadway star Sutton Foster plays Liza, a 41-year-old recently divorced mom from New Jersey who wants to re-enter the workforce, but no company will hire her because she's too old for an entry-level job. They're looking for hip millennials who know social media. So since she kind of looks young, she decides to pass herself off as a 26-year-old and gets hired at a big publishing firm. She gets new friends and a new boyfriend, all of whom are in their 20s, and she has to live with this lie that she's concocted that she's 26, pretty much 24/7. It's a clever comedy from Sex and the City creator Darren Star. Hilary Duff co-stars, and it's so much fun. If you've never seen it, you can binge watch the entire extremely entertaining series. And for those who know the show, enjoy the new final season where all the loose ends are tied up. Justine?
Neil, I'm really enjoying learning more about your viewing habits since you told me you watched the whole first season of You in one day. I'm now younger. I absolutely love it. As you can
my wife and daughter turned me on to this show. And all
Okay, yeah,
they did.
sure. Throw them under the bus.
No, it's good.
But exactly that. You see this series in particular, it appeals to a wide range of people. And there's a reason it's been on for as long as it has a bit of a cult following, but really the message at the core of it is really impactful. It's so much fun. There's a great, colorful supporting cast here. It really utilizes all of the talent of Sutton Foster, of course. And again, just the concept in general, how they've really inventively been able to stretch it for so long. It's very skillful.
Well, that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Bill McCuddy, Perry Nemiroff, and Justine Browning. Stay well. I'm Neil Rose, and join us next time on Talking Pictures.